To the NFL and the San Francisco 49ers, kind of a forgotten team, if you will, Colin? That's what Kyle Juszczyk is saying. The legendary fullback for the Niners says, hey, people are forgetting about us. We like that. Here we go.
There's no easy games here out in the NFC West for sure. But we feel great about where our team's at. The fact that we won 13 games last season with all that we had to deal with, I think, that's easy to forget. And rightfully so. The Seahawks, they won a Super Bowl. The Rams had a great season, and they've had some great additions in the offseason. So I can understand why that is the case. But I think we feel great about where we're at, man. I love our squad.
Well, it's a good team. There's a little more difficulty in the schedule this year. They can't be as dinged up as they were last year. I think their bigger issue is the division. I think both the Rams and the Niners, the Rams and the Seahawks have better rosters, deeper rosters, and more youth. The 49ers' bigger issue right now is a majority of their top players have been injured, will get injured, are more brittle, and all expensive. They don't have a lot of value on the roster.
Yeah, the other problem is, so the Niners won in Seattle early in the season and then could do nothing offensively in the second meeting, and they got destroyed in the playoff game. So to me, that's kind of a declining team. And then you look at, you lose Jennings, right? You've got the injury to Kittle. I know they picked up Mike Evans, Christian Kirk. It just feels a bit like a creaky, oldish team, Colin. And again, I'm a Purdy truther. That's my guy. Christian McCaffrey coming off the largest workload of his career. We really expect him to put up massive numbers. I mean, how old is Trent Williams? We're just looking at an old team. I can see this teetering, and I wouldn't be surprised if they went 7-10 this season because the injuries and the travel kind of catch up with them, Colin.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's wrap up.
Let's take a moment, shall we, to shift our focus toward that well-worn, somewhat neglected franchise nestled in the Bay Area. Yes, I'm talking about the San Francisco 49ers. That's the subject we need to dissect. But before we dive headfirst into the analysis, I have a humble request for the faithful out there. Please, do me a massive solid and make sure you are subscribed to the channel, and more importantly, commit to watching this video in its entirety. When you take that extra step, the engagement metrics absolutely skyrocket. The view counts climb, the subscriber numbers surge, and I want to be clear, this isn't some shallow ploy to chase vanity metrics. It's not about inflating numbers for the sake of numbers. The true goal is to sustain the production of San Francisco 49ers content that you, the viewers, genuinely find valuable and want to engage with. That's the only way we can maintain these consistent, unfiltered, grounded, and honest dialogues about the team. Your commitment to watching the full video makes a tangible, colossal difference, and I truly cannot overstate my appreciation for it. Alright, let's get down to business. I believe you have perfectly articulated the current perception of this squad. The label of being forgotten sticks because it wasn't that long ago when the 49ers were viewed as the absolute gold standard. They were the cream of the crop, an organization that could seemingly do no wrong. They represented the pinnacle of the sport, elite, commanding, and dominant in every phase. They were a masterclass in coaching, organization, and strategy, an aggressive, intelligent, swift, and pioneering force on the gridiron. It felt as though any positive adjective you could conceive of, they embodied completely, no matter the specific aspect of the game you were analyzing. The partnership of Kyle Shanahan with either Jimmy Garoppolo or Brock Purdy was seemingly destined for success. It was an endless loop of praise. There was a significant stretch where it genuinely appeared that the league was heading toward a permanent rivalry between Kansas City and San Francisco. Both organizations had cracked the code on roster construction, they were impeccably coached, and there was simply no discernible flaw you could point to, no glaring weakness you could exploit. Then, the narrative began to shift. When you rewind and carefully watch those Super Bowl matchups, the reality is that the 49ers had legitimate, tangible opportunities to secure victory in both contests. They were in a position to win, and it's not an exaggeration to say that the Kansas City Chiefs could have easily lost either of those games. They were that close. The margin for error was microscopic. If the results had swung in their favor, the entire discourse surrounding this franchise, the way we analyze their recent seasons and their current trajectory, would be fundamentally different. But that isn't the reality we live in. They fell short. They didn't get the job done. They didn't conquer the Chiefs. Then, we witnessed a team like the Philadelphia Eagles dismantle the Kansas City Chiefs in emphatic fashion, and the collective reaction was one of realization: it is possible. That benchmark exists. To add further context, the Seattle Seahawks, a direct rival within their own division, went on to win the Super Bowl. And if we rewind a bit further to 2021, the Los Angeles Rams acquired Matthew Stafford and immediately ascended to the pinnacle of the sport, securing a championship. So, let's put this into perspective. The 49ers have made 2 Super Bowl appearances within this timeframe. Yet, in the intervening period between those appearances, the Rams won it all. The very next year, a major conference rival, a team they had been battling toe-to-toe with, conquered the mountaintop. The season after that, the Seahawks, their third divisional adversary, hoisted the Lombardi Trophy. So, any team that was either considered to be on par with them or slightly ahead, any team they were directly competing with, those organizations were able to achieve the ultimate goal. They had more straight-up, undeniable Super Bowl success, which is, after all, the sole currency that matters in this league. Now, factor in the most recent campaign, which was marred by a crippling injury crisis. You had a situation where Joshua Dobbs and then Brock Purdy were under center, effectively holding the fort. In that context, it's only natural that the team fades into the background of national conversations. The sentiment isn't one of excitement or fear. It's not, wow, Brock Purdy is about to set the league ablaze. That intense level of attention, that tangible momentum, simply isn't there right now. And again, while Kyle Shanahan is indisputably a brilliant offensive mastermind, the landscape has shifted. There's an abundance of great coaching talent now. People are lauding Mike Macdonald's defensive acumen, praising the offensive creativity of Liam Cohen, and heaping accolades on Ben Johnson. There was a distinct era where it was just the boy geniuses, Shanahan and Sean McVay, and that was the exclusive club. Now, you're seeing a proliferation of new names entering the conversation. Coordinators are being labeled as geniuses left and right, from Cliff Kingsbury to others. Consequently, Shanahan's unique energy and the public perception of his genius have been somewhat diluted. I don't want to say his standing has been diminished or marginalized, because that's not the case. I firmly believe he is a true, authentic, and certified mad genius, and I'm not suggesting he should be ranked below any of these rising stars. My point is that the environment has become saturated. There are simply more figures to discuss, more offensive innovators to analyze. The way people talk about Ben Johnson right now, their enthusiasm for his coaching, roster building, and play-calling abilities is at a fever pitch. In that specific public relations battle, he likely possesses more current momentum than a Kyle Shanahan. All these factors coalesce to create the current dynamic of how quickly the league moves on. Everyone is far more excited about a prospect like Caleb Williams than they are about Brock Purdy. However, the fundamental truth remains, as long as the roster is constructed at a high level and maintains its health, we all know exactly what the San Francisco 49ers are capable of achieving. We've witnessed the ceiling of this team. When they are firing on all cylinders, they are an absolutely formidable, nearly impossible to stop juggernaut. They are the kind of opponent that makes you deeply uncomfortable because you are fully aware of their potential. It's not just about their talent, it's about their precision. Their execution is elite. That's precisely what made the Chiefs so daunting in their prime as well. It was the knowledge that with all that talent, they could execute flawlessly in any critical moment, and you knew you weren't going to outcoach, outplay, outhustle, or outsmart them. The 49ers possessed all of those characteristics. They had that aura. But the roster attrition, the persistent injury woes, has systematically undercut that mystique. Meanwhile, other franchises are stepping up and saying, "We're awesome now. We're well coached," whether it's McVay, Macdonald, or the rejuvenated Chicago Bears. So, the question becomes, where does that leave the 49ers? I think you hit the nail on the head with your analysis when you said, the Yorks won the Super Bowl and the Rams were a great team and now they've added even more players. It just makes sense. It absolutely does. If it makes logical sense to the players themselves, then it should be perfectly understandable to the fans. That's just the way the ball bounces. The 49ers remain a profoundly intriguing team. What they have been able to accomplish over this extended period is genuinely impressive. But the sport is ultimately about winning the Super Bowl. You came up short twice in the last 7 or 8 years, and in that same window, you've seen other teams, the Rams, the Seahawks, the Eagles, get it done. So, the persistent, nagging question is, how do you take that next critical step? What specific components do you need to build upon to get over the hump? This season, you are going to lean heavily on Christian McCaffrey, Mike Evans, and, of course, the continued development of Brock Purdy. However, your ceiling, not your floor, but your absolute ceiling, will be determined by these key playmakers, who, as history has shown, can be sidelined by injury at any moment. If this team hoists the Lombardi Trophy this year, it will be because McCaffrey, Evans, and Purdy are performing at an all-pro level and are the absolute best versions of themselves. Of course, there are other vital contributors on the roster, and I'm not downplaying their roles. I'm simply stating a hard truth: if you're going to be great, if you're going to vanquish the Los Angeles Rams or the Seattle Seahawks in the NFC Championship game, it's going to hinge on those stars. It will depend on Purdy and Shanahan operating the offense with total synergy and execution. It will require the defense to finally have a clean bill of health. And with Raheem Morris at the helm, you can be confident that the defensive unit will remain well-coached and fundamentally sound. So, you're in a position to maintain consistency and stability, which at the very least takes care of your floor. But for this franchise, it is not about the floor. It is entirely about the ceiling. That is the singular, all-consuming focus. You are the San Francisco 49ers, and year after year in this modern NFL era, you have been a top-tier, elite team. Yet, other organizations have surpassed you in the grand scheme of legacy because they've actually reached the summit. They've won it all. Looking ahead, the schedule presents a fascinating set of challenges. Everyone gets so obsessed with the schedule, but it does provide a roadmap. Week 1 against the Rams is a tough opening test. Week 4 and Week 5 offer similarly difficult opponents. The Commanders game will be an intriguing matchup. Week 7 presents the Raheem Morris revenge factor. By Week 9, the identity of the Raiders quarterback remains a mystery, which adds another layer of intrigue. Week 10 features the Cowboys, and by that point in the season, conventional wisdom will likely have anointed them as Super Bowl favorites with Dak Prescott as the MVP frontrunner. I'm fairly confident in that prediction. Week 11 against the Vikings, with Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy, is a complete toss-up. No one knows what that team will look like, and that includes you. Then, you have the Seahawks again and the Giants. The Giants will inevitably become everyone's darling if they show any consistency. Looking at the slate as a whole, I think it's a relatively forgiving schedule, all things considered. The timing and location of the games are interesting. The most obvious hurdles are the divisional matchups, playing the Rams twice and the Seahawks twice. That represents the most significant obstacle. Beyond that, you have other formidable teams sprinkled in: the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Eagles, and the Broncos. And then there are a few others, like the Commanders, where you're left wondering if they are on the right track to being great. The Cowboys are a perpetual question mark of identity. Who are they going to be at that moment? Theoretically, you could make the same argument for the Chiefs and the Eagles. Who are they right now? Are they the team of 2024, 2023, 2022, or 2020? Are they still navigating their own transitional periods? So, plenty of question marks remain, but nothing that screams tough sledding to me. No matter how great the Rams or Seahawks are, divisional games are always a coin flip. Nobody, absolutely nobody outside of the most optimistic 49ers faithful, would have predicted that Joshua Dobbs and the 49ers would beat the Rams. But they did. You just have zero idea what will happen. I thought that the second Seahawks game was more competitive than the final score indicated. And then in the playoffs, they were essentially run out of the building, but they were also decimated by injuries. The Seahawks were the better team that day, and it's perfectly acceptable to admit that. It's okay to acknowledge that Seattle was simply superior in that specific contest. You can certainly counter with the what-if argument: what if we were healthy, but you weren't, so the hypotheticals don't matter. Ultimately, I just know it's going to be an entertaining ride. But those are my preliminary thoughts. I am absolutely eager to hear yours. What does everyone think about this forgotten San Francisco 49ers team? I might actually have to put the forgotten 49ers or the old rickety 49ers on a shirt. Share your opinions in the comments section below. I read every single one. Whether you agree with me or vehemently disagree, let's get some discussions going, maybe even some friendly arguments, but ultimately, let's ensure we're having fun. Please do consider subscribing to the channel. We are cultivating an amazing community here, and I would love nothing more than to see you as an active part of it. I want to build something we all feel genuinely connected to, something we're truly excited to be a part of. We are well on our way to achieving that goal. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it genuinely aids in visibility and helps the algorithm. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you in the next one.